Hawking.
An emotional day in court as Kyle Rittenhouse takes the stand in his defense. Plus, a local student wants to create community using coffee and a splash of kindness.
I'm not just selling coffee, I'm making friends.
And in sports, Ohio men's basketball starts their season off with a win. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening and welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio. I'm Madison Moore. The city of Columbus may soon see an alternative to 911. Mayor Andrew Ginther proposed the $5 million program yesterday following a 6-week pilot program earlier this year in the city. The pilot program brought together paramedics, social workers, and police dispatchers to try and find the best response to non-emergency 911 calls. Ginther says the plan announced yesterday is aimed at people suffering from mental health and addiction issues where a police response isn't always appropriate. Graduates from Ohio's largest school district will now be able to attend community college for free. The program announced by Columbus City officials today is set to help Columbus City school graduates from the classes of 2022, 23, and 24 attend Columbus State Community College free of charge. Named the Columbus Promise Initiative, the program will also allocate additional money for student expenses such as books and access to academic and career sport options. The Ohio Supreme Court will now decide whether Governor Mike DeWine had the legal authority to end the state's federal pandemic unemployment aid program ahead of the federal government's end date. The program provided weekly $300 payments in coronavirus unemployment funds to those employed. DeWine ended the state's participation in June, 10 weeks before the federal program ended. DeWine's decision came following the position of business groups in the state who say the weekly payments made it difficult to recruit employers.
So we saw some more warm weather today, and we're going to be continuing to see that into tomorrow. We did see some areas in our viewing area reach the low 70s. We reached up to around 68 degrees here today in Athens. And right now we're going to continue to see warm weather. Right now we're at around 57 degrees with the humidity at around 68%. And we also do right now have calm winds. And across the region, we're going to continue to see this warm weather where some areas are still in the low 60s and some areas to the north are in the mid to upper 50s. And we're going to continue to see clouds increase overnight. Now heading into my full weather later on, we're going to be talking about some rain moving into the area tomorrow evening. And behind that, we'll continue to see cold air come in. And I might even talk about some possible snow heading into this weekend. But for right now, I'm going to be handing it back to Madison.
Thanks, Henry. An Akron area priest is set to serve life in prison. Reverend Robert McWilliams was sentenced yesterday after previously pleading guilty to 8 counts involving exploitation of children and child pornography. U.S. District Judge Sarah Leoy says the public needs to be protected from McWilliams, who was arrested in December of 2019 at his church in Strongville. Defense attorney Robert Dixon argued for just a 15-year sentence, calling McWilliams a, quote, good candidate for rehabilitation through therapy. The strike at Cabell Huntington Hospital continues. Agreement talks are now tabled after a failure to find common ground during Tuesday's meeting between workers and administrators. Union officials tell WSAZ that administrators presented a new proposal yesterday that they call, quote, worse than their last, best, and final offer. The strike will now continue for what hospital workers and union leaders say will be as long as it takes. In a written statement, hospital management says they have resumed negotiations with members of Service Employees International Union and that their team is following recommendations and guidance of a federal mediator. The Toledo Zoo is mourning the loss of its 24-year-old polar bear. The bear named Marty was euthanized last week, according to the zoo's curator of animals. Marty had been diagnosed with kidney disease in previous years, with a recent examination determining his kidneys were functioning very poorly. The zoo then made the decision to euthanize Marty. The news isn't sad though. Marty and the zoo's female polar bear, Crystal, have already had several cubs together, and officials believe Crystal, who turns 23 next week, may be pregnant again. Coming up, prices in the U.S. continue to rise. What government officials are doing to combat the inflation. And Kyle Rittenhouse takes the stand for an emotional day in court. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
Best journalism is that which builds communities.
We're on deadline, ready to put it on the page.
I get real uptight about deadlines.
Son Tom Cullen, our reporter, lives the job.
We've always operated at the break-even point.
$7.
The newspaper not being around terrifies me.
Readers decide our future, not any branch of government.
Storm Lake, Monday, November 15th at 10 on Independent Lens.
I promised I wouldn't cry.
On Finding Your Roots, journalist Nina Totenberg.
It just makes me so curious.
And talk show host Andy Cohen.
I'm scared.
Ancestors who overcame enormous odds.
She got up by the skin of her teeth.
She was a fighter.
Plus,
You gonna tell me who my cousin is now?
Yes, please turn the page.
You're kidding me.
Yes!
Finding Your Roots.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, take a walk down memory lane as we visit some of our favorite appraisals from the past 25 years.
It is the greatest archive I have ever had at the Roadshow. Really? Holy smokes.
This is the type of thing that makes them weak in the knees.
I don't think there's a better one in the world.
Don't miss our special episode, Antiques Roadshow Best of 25.
The third round of the playoffs are here, and we're down to 16 teams per division, and get ready for the start of playing at neutral sites. These matchups only get better as Jackson plays Western Brown in a rematch. We'll also see Bloom Carroll play Heat. Also, don't forget to vote for our Player of the Year. Voting is available on our website right now. So turn the channel to WOUB next Friday at 11:30 p.m. or 11:30 a.m. on Saturday to catch all the action. We'll see you then.
Prices are rising in America, whether it's at the gas pump or the grocery store. It's the nation's fastest climb in more than 30 years. Karen Kafa has more as Americans are feeling the squeeze leading into the holiday season.
Up and away. The Labor Department says prices for consumer goods and services kept climbing in October, another 0.9% for the month and 6.2% over the last year, the biggest year-over-year surge since November of 1990. Pushing overall numbers higher, meat, poultry, fish, and eggs altogether up 1.7% in October and up 11.9% over last year. Used car prices up 2.5% during the month and 26.4% for the year. And energy prices, including gasoline, up 4.8% in October and 30% over last year, a concern ahead of winter.
Families for the last several months have been spending more money for gasoline, and now these home heating prices are added to that.
President Joe Biden said reversing the inflation trend is, quote, a top priority. And top economic officials argue it's a temporary consequence of the pandemic economy, as a rapid rise in demand meets a shortage of raw materials and supply chain bottlenecks.
We all have to be just a little bit patient because we are seeing that the action we are taking is working. We just have to stick with it, long enough to solve the problem.
Another report from the Labor Department said an increase in average hourly wages in October was outpaced by price hikes as Americans plan their holiday spending. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
With rising inflation, Ohio is set to see its largest single-year minimum wage increase in more than a decade. A 2006 amendment to the state's constitution tied Ohio's minimum wage to inflation. As a result, hourly workers in Ohio can expect the minimum wage to rise from $8.80 to $9.30 on January 1st. Home prices are on the rise and they're not expected to fall anytime soon. The median price of homes rose in 99% of U.S. housing markets this past quarter, according to the National Association of Realtors. That's along with double-digit increase in 78% of markets, but at least one area in Ohio is among that 1%. Some of the country's most affordable markets are in the Midwest, with Youngstown, Ohio landing a spot as one of the most affordable markets in the country. Kyle Rittenhouse testifying in his own defense today, overwhelmed in Kenosha, Wisconsin courtroom as he faces multiple charges, including first-degree intentional homicide for the shooting deaths of 2 men during protests in the city last year. Daryl Forges reports.
There were
Kyle Rittenhouse emotional on the witness stand. The teenager breaking down as he recalled what happened in the moments leading up to him shooting and killing Joseph Rosenbaum. The judge called for a recess to give Rittenhouse time to compose himself before continuing testimony.
Mr. Rosenbaum is, I would say, from me to where the judge is, coming at me with his arms out in front of him. I remember his hand on the barrel of my gun.
After killing Rosenbaum, Rittenhouse shot at 3 other people who confronted him, killing Anthony Huber and injuring Gage Grosskreutz.
His arm is like that with me on the ground and his pistol is pointed at me, and that's when I shoot him.
On Monday, Grosskreutz testified he never intentionally pointed his gun at Rittenhouse. And tense moments during cross-examination, the judge sending the jury out of the courtroom to reprimand the prosecution for their line of questioning.
I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years.
Rittenhouse has pleaded not guilty, claiming self-defense. I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
Rittenhouse claims he was in Kenosha to protect local businesses from unrest during protests in 2020. In Ohio, state lawmakers are already working to target protesters with a provision normally used against terrorists. Republican State Representatives Cindy Abrams and Sarah Caruthers are proposing legislation to allow police harm during riots during sued individuals or organizations that provided support or resources. The bill, called, quote, extreme attack on free speech by the ACLU, also increases penalties for rioting and creates the offenses of riot assault and vandalism. Coming up, Newswatch reporter Nick Veland joins us in the studio with a look into a friendly local business. That story's still ahead.
Warm weather will continue tomorrow, but we'll also see the chance of rain increase. I'll have this and more on Newswatch coming up later, but first a look at stocks of local interest.
The third round of the playoffs are here, and we're down to 16 teams per division, and get ready for the start of playing at neutral sites. These matchups only get better as Jackson plays Western Brown in a rematch. We'll also see Bloom Carroll play Heat. Also, don't forget to vote for our Player of the Year. Voting is available on our website right now. So turn the channel to WOUB next Friday at 11:30 p.m. or 11:30 a.m. on Saturday to catch all the action. We'll see you then.
Art is important because it shows who we were, where we came from.
Through my art, I'm creating a more powerful woman within myself.
Inspiration is everywhere.
It's important that we learn our culture, our practices.
We are tied to the land. That's our blood. That's where we come from.
I promised I wouldn't cry.
On Finding Your Roots, journalist Nina Totenberg.
It just makes me so curious.
And talk show host Andy Cohen.
I'm scared.
Ancestors who overcame enormous odds.
She got up by the skin of her teeth.
She was a fighter.
Plus.
You gonna tell me who my cousin is now?
Yes. Please turn the page.
You're kidding me.
Yes.
Finding Your Roots.
The best journalism is that which builds communities.
We're on deadline, ready to put it on the page.
I get real uptight about deadlines.
Son Tom Cohen,
Our reporter lives the job.
We've always operated at the break-even point.
$7.
The newspaper not being around terrifies me.
Readers decide our future, not any branch of government.
Storm Lake, Monday, November 15th at 10 on Independent Lens.
A new pop-up coffee shop in Athens has hit the streets. Here's more on how the business looks to promote bringing people together coming out of the pandemic. Tucked away in front of a fraternity house on College Street sits, at least for now, Jukebox Java. But for Sean Smothers, his table with its iced coffee and flavored syrups is something more.
I'm not just selling coffee, I'm making friends, so it's good.
Sean thinks that given this past year and a half of the lockdowns, social isolation, and uncertainty about the future, people could use a little pick-me-up.
Come back to life, start talking to each other again, start looking at the people around you that you love, and just appreciate every single phase in your life.
A way to reconnect with each other, to get to know one another, to talk with each other. That's the goal here.
How you doing? I'm doing all right myself. Honestly, it's an amazing day. I really can't complain.
And one of those ways he tries to get people talking is with these labels he adds to every cup, each containing the name of a song for people to go listen to.
I want people to buy a cup of coffee and look at the other Jukebox Java cups around them and think we have some sort of community here. We have some camaraderie, and we can talk about music, and we can talk about the things that matter.
Coffee, conversation, and community. A mix Sean hopes will help make the world just a little bit sweeter. Smothers also mentioned a promotion he's looking to do where the first coffee of the day is free. All you have to do is answer a question about bettering yourself. Live in the studio, I'm Nick Veland.
So we saw a great day today in weather. It was mostly cloudy with some partly cloudy skies. Temperatures were a little bit warm in the upper 60s with some areas in the low 70s. And taking a look at visible satellite right now, we do have an area of clouds that will start to move into the area overnight, and we will see as warm fronts start to move in. As you can see on the, sorry about that. As you can see on the surface analysis, we do have a warm front moving in from the north, and that'll be bringing warmer weather tomorrow. But also, this cold front will also swing through the area tomorrow, bringing us rain tomorrow evening. Looking at the weather for tonight, we're going to be starting off at around 52 degrees at 8 p.m. Clouds will start to increase. Temperatures will start to steady out at around 48 by midnight, and we will see temperatures remain steady with temperatures in the upper 40s at around 47 degrees. It's going to be mostly cloudy. We do not expect any rain tonight, and winds will remain calm. The same can be said across the region with temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. It's going to be mostly cloudy throughout the night with not much in the way of any clearing. This is because as tomorrow we'll see a cold front start to move in after a warm front moves through tomorrow morning. This cold front will start to bring in rain in the evening, and behind that we do see the return of very cold weather. But for right now, we're going to be seeing temperatures in the 50s starting at 8 a.m. As the warm front moves in, winds will start to increase out from the south, and temperatures will start to rapidly increase to the mid 60s by noon. Temperatures will top out at around 70 degrees. Chance of rain in the evening at around 70%, and we'll see winds from the south at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Across the region, also chance of rain in the evening. Temperatures will rapidly increase into the upper 60s and low 70s. But after this cold front comes through, temperatures will start to decrease as we even head into this weekend, where we could see a chance of snow Saturday and Sunday. But right now, the chance is going to be really low. Saturday, the chance of any precipitation is around 20%, and any chance of precipitation on Sunday will also remain at around 30%. Tomorrow, we'll start to see the rain coming in the evening. Chance of rain will be around 70%. Temperatures quickly drop from 70 to 57 for Friday, but we are looking at really nice weather. And after this weekend, we'll continue to see really nice weather Monday and through Wednesday with temperatures in the mid 40s, but start to increase back into the mid to upper 50s, and low temperatures in the morning will start to return back to around freezing. So that's it for here at weather. We're going to be handing it back to Madison.
Thanks, Henry. As the United States' effort to vaccinate children ages 5 to 11 ramps up, pediatricians say COVID-19 cases in kids are once again climbing after weeks of decline. Mandy Gaither takes a look at the latest numbers.
Across the U.S., nearly 1 million children ages 5 to 11 are expected to have rolled up their sleeves by the end of the day, getting the first dose of protection against COVID-19.
I think that the parents who have gotten vaccinated themselves are probably going to take their children to be vaccinated, and they should.
But as the effort to vaccinate younger children ramps up, there's another number inching back up as well. This past week, the American Academy of Pediatrics says there's a 6% increase in new COVID-19 cases in children from the week before. Kids still account for about a quarter of all cases in the U.S., while some schools are getting rid of mask requirements.
There's a storm in the horizon, and it's coming over. Yes, I think it's too soon to lift mandates for masks, especially in children at this point.
Meanwhile, a new poll shows 78% of Americans aren't sure or believe some aspect of COVID-19 misinformation. Of those surveyed, 38% believe the government is exaggerating the number of COVID-19 deaths by counting deaths from other factors. And a third of adults polled believe or are unsure if COVID-19 vaccines cause infertility. Experts and public health officials are united in saying there's no evidence that vaccines impact fertility. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
According to White House Coronavirus Response Coordinator Jeff Zients, the U.S. has, quote, plenty of supply for all 28 million kids between ages of 5 and 11. That's along with 20,000 vaccine sites already up and running.
Coming up in sports, the Ohio men's and women's basketball teams were both in action last night. And right after the break, the Ohio football team picks up a huge conference win. Thanks. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight at your public television station.
This month in Passport on the PBS Video app, your on-demand library for the best of PBS.
Could we talk about the fact that we killed a man? Why would we want to do that?
I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to the science.
Muhammad Ali was the most important man in the world.
The price of freedom comes high. I have paid, but I am free.
These and other shows from your PBS station are available with Passport on the PBS Video app. Download it today.
The best journalism is that which builds communities.
We're on deadline, ready to put it on the page.
I get real uptight about deadlines.
Son Tom Cullen, our reporter, lives the job.
We've always operated at the break-even point.
$7.
The newspaper not being around terrifies me.
Readers decide our future, not any branch of government.
Storm Lake, Monday, November 15th at 10 on Independent Lens.
I promised I wouldn't cry.
On Finding Your Roots, journalist Nina Totenberg
It just makes me so curious.
and talk show host Andy Cohen.
I'm scared.
Ancestors who overcame enormous odds.
She got up by the skin of her teeth.
She was a fighter.
Plus,
You gonna tell me who my cousin is now?
Yes, please turn the page.
You're kidding me. Yes.
Finding Your Roots.
The third round of the playoffs are here, and we're down to 16 teams per division, and get ready for the start of playing at neutral sites. These matchups only get better as Jackson plays Western Brown in a rematch. We'll also see Bloom Carroll play Heat. Also, don't forget to vote for our Player of the Year. Voting is available on our website right now. So turn the channel to WOUB next Friday at 11:30 p.m. or 11:30 a.m. on Saturday to catch all the action. We'll see you then.
Hello everyone, I'm Bryce Stinson. The Ohio football team is celebrating its second consecutive conference win. The Bobcats earned a 34-26 road win against the Eastern Michigan Eagles last night. The offense was dominant with 495 yards. Quarterback Curtis Rourke threw for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 9 completions. Those 3 scores were from 66, 40, and 33 yards out. The Bobcats also ran for 265 yards. The defense held Eastern to 26 points after the Eagles dropped 50 in their previous 2 games. Head coach Tim Albin says he tips his hat to the coaches on that side of the ball.
Unbelievable job with Coach Collins and the guy, Coach Jermon, the entire defensive staff. We've been decimated with injuries. Facing that quarterback and their throwing game, I know they completed some balls tonight, but we came up huge on a huge sack and got a huge interception.
The Bobcats look to continue the win streak Tuesday at home against Toledo. They'll need to keep that streak going to stay in the MAC East race. Ohio is 3rd in the division with a 3-3 conference record. If the Bobcats win out against Toledo and Bowling Green, and Miami loses to Bowling Green next week, and Kent State also loses out, Ohio makes the MAC championship game. It's not likely, but there is still hope for the Bobcats after a very rough start to the season. The Ohio men's basketball team is 1-0 after a huge non-conference win in their first regular season game. The Bobcats offense cooked Belmont en route to a 92-80 finish. They shot 48% from the field and drained it from behind the arc, hitting at a 43% clip. Sophomore guard Mark Sears led the way, scoring with 27 points on 10 of 11 shooting. And welcome back Jason Carter, the redshirt senior forward, finished with 20 points, 10 boards, and 2 blocks. Fellow redshirt senior forward Ben Vonderplas did it all with 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. Head coach Jeff Bullis says the offense fueled by the atmosphere in the Convo.
Obviously, I'm a little biased, and I played here, but when this place gets loud, it gets rocking. And hopefully, like I said, we continue to build on this with the community, the students, because it's a tough home court to play on. And, I like to see, when guys make those hustle plays, they get rewarded, right? That gets them into it.
The Bobcats look for win number 2 on the road at Cleveland State Saturday. The Ohio women's basketball team looks for their first win after dropping the season opener in South Bend, Indiana. Ohio beat Notre Dame last year when they played, but couldn't get that same result this time. They fell 105-69. Naismith Player of the Year hopeful CeCe Hooks led the way for the Bobbies with 21 on 50% shooting. Erica Johnson had 14 on the night with 4 of Ohio's 6 total assists. The Bobcats, as a team, shot just 36% from the field. Meanwhile, Notre Dame was on fire, hitting at a 60% clip on their shots. Maya Dodson was the game's leading scorer with 25 on an efficient 11 of 16 shooting. Sam Brunel gave the Fighting Irish 20 points off the bench. It's a tough loss for the Bobcats to start the season, but they look to bounce back at Liberty Saturday. I'm Bryce Stinson. That's it for sports. Back to you, Madison.
Thanks, Bryce. Archaeologists are working to preserve a 1,200-year-old canoe found in Wisconsin Lake last week. A crew from the Wisconsin Historical Society discovered the historic dugout canoe under about 30 feet of water earlier this year. They finally excavated it last Tuesday. They've been able to use carbon dating to determine the age of the canoe, finding it was used around 800 AD. Archaeologists say the canoe is remarkably intact given its age and hope it will help them to learn about how people used to travel and trade around the area.
So we have another warm day in store for us tomorrow with temperatures reaching the low 70s after a warm front does move through tomorrow morning with increasing clouds throughout the day. But behind that warm front, we do see a cold front moving through, and that'll bring us a 70% chance of rain, and winds will be out from the south at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. The same will be across the region with temperatures in the upper 60s to the north and low 70s to the south. We'll start to see rain in the evening, and looking at the 7-day, we're going to be seeing an isolated chance of snow on Saturday and Sunday. But for now, back over to Madison.
And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Madison Moore. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at woub.org. Have a great night.
Support comes from Dean Heating and Cooling. Stay warm this winter with energy-efficient TempStar heating. Dean Heating and Cooling provides HVAC services and installation in the Athens area, featuring TempStar quality you can feel. Support comes from Snyder, Fuller, and Stroh in Athens, providing retirement planning and assistance to Southeast Ohio for 50 years. Snyder, Fuller, and